Have you ever wondered how, in just 5 minutes, you could completely change the way a man sees you, without speaking about your deepest emotions or trying to impress him with achievements? The truth is, most women unknowingly sabotage early connections by doing exactly that. They share too much too soon. They reveal vulnerabilities that feel overwhelming rather than inviting. And instead of igniting admiration or curiosity, they create a sense of emotional burden that a man instinctively pulls away from. Carl Jung once wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, "Emotion is the chief source of consciousness. There is no change from darkness to light, or from inertia to movement without emotion." But here's the catch. It's not about sharing your heavy emotions. It's about evoking the right emotions in him. Today, I'll show you how to do that. You'll learn to trigger a man's natural instincts of respect, admiration, subtle challenge, and deep attraction, all while staying light, mysterious, and emotionally magnetic. And it all starts not with your words, but with how he feels standing next to you. Because in the end, it's not what you say that he remembers, it's how you made him feel. When a woman wants to create a real connection with a man, her heart is often in the right place. She wants to be open, to show her depth, to prove she's different from anyone else he has met. But without realizing it, many women walk straight into a hidden trap that closes the emotional door instead of opening it. The first mistake: extreme vulnerability too soon, sharing personal traumas, deep insecurities, or emotional wounds within. The first few interactions feels natural for many women, especially because emotional openness builds intimacy among female friends. But men's emotional instincts work differently, especially at the beginning of romantic connections. Heavy vulnerability activates their protector instincts only when deep trust is already firmly established. Too soon, and it simply overwhelms them. It feels like emotional weight they haven't chosen to carry, creating not empathy, but silent resistance. The second mistake: talking excessively about emotions, trying to discuss where this is going, describing how nervous you feel, or overanalyzing small moments can suffocate the organic emotional space that needs to breathe and expand naturally. Men are action-driven by nature. They feel connection more through shared experiences and energy than through verbal emotional processing, especially early on when the bond is still fragile. The third mistake: trying to impress with achievements. Listing career accomplishments, intellectual credentials, or personal victories can unintentionally flip the dynamic. Instead of feeling admiration and wanting to earn your interest, a man may subconsciously feel that he's being evaluated, or worse, that he has to compete with you. When that happens, the natural masculine energy of pursuit fades away, replaced by silent comparison and emotional detachment. Carl Jung, in his book Psychological Types, warns us, every advancement in consciousness brings an ever-increasing sense of responsibility for oneself and the world. If a woman brings too much intense consciousness into the first connection, too much self-revelation, too much emotional intensity, it demands responsibility from the man before he's emotionally ready for it. And when a man feels pressured to assume emotional responsibility before desire and admiration have had time to naturally grow, he instinctively pulls away. This is why you may have seen a man who initially showed great interest suddenly ghost after a seemingly profound conversation. It's not because he's shallow, fickle, or afraid of depth. It's because he unconsciously felt emotional overload, a level of responsibility for feelings he wasn't prepared to handle so early. Real. Early-stage attraction isn't built on deep vulnerability. It's built on emotional energy, the sensations of curiosity, admiration, ease, freedom, and playful challenge. It's about feeling alive around you, not burdened. Imagine this. You meet someone, and within minutes you feel light, energized, amused, maybe even a little intrigued by what you don't yet know about them. That's when connection roots itself deep, without force or pressure. It plants seeds of wanting more, not out of duty but from desire. The good news? You don't need to hide who you are. You simply need to sequence what you share, guiding the emotional flow at the right pace. First, create emotional lightness. admiration and magnetic ease. Then, once trust has built organically, the doors to deeper intimacy will swing open naturally without overwhelming either of you. In a moment, I'll show you exactly how to spark that early emotional magic, using simple questions and emotional intelligence. But first, anchor this truth deeply. The first stage of attraction isn't about how deeply you can reveal yourself. It's about how he feels about himself in your presence. When a man feels admired, energized, and subtly challenged, without heavy emotional expectations, his instincts will guide him to want to pursue you, to connect with you, and to invest more into the bond you're creating. And that's the foundation for both immediate attraction and lasting emotional resonance. Understanding how male instincts work isn't about manipulating or deceiving. It's about aligning yourself with the natural emotional currents that already exist within him, those primal forces that shape his experience of attraction, admiration, and commitment at a level far deeper than conscious thought. At the core, men are instinctively drawn to women who radiate emotional lightness, who transmit positive energy, without demanding immediate emotional responsibility, and who create an atmosphere of both admiration and subtle challenge. When a woman carries herself with a sense of inner ease, playful intrigue, and understated mystery, she awakens something ancient and irresistible within the male psyche, the instinct to pursue, to protect, to earn a place in her emotional world. It is crucial to realize that attraction for men is not primarily logical. A man may admire a woman's achievements, respect her intelligence, even acknowledge her beauty, and still not feel compelled to chase her or to deepen the connection. That deeper magnetism is fueled by emotion, by the sensations he experiences when he is with her. When he feels alive, admired, energized, and just slightly challenged, his instincts begin to guide him more powerfully than any conscious decision. Carl Jung, in his book Man and His Symbols, reminds us, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. This transformation cannot be forced. It must be evoked through an emotional environment that invites it without demanding it. Men are particularly sensitive to the emotional temperature of a woman's presence. If she carries an invisible burden of anxiety, neediness, or urgency, even if she speaks eloquently, he will feel it on an instinctual level, and his desire to move closer will weaken. In contrast, a woman who maintains a tone of effortless joy, light teasing, and curious engagement creates a field of energy that magnetizes his interest without words needing to explain it. It is in this emotional space, filled with lightness, admiration, and playful unpredictability, that a man's ancient instincts come to life. His natural competitive drive seeks challenges worth winning, his emotional heart seeks admiration without pressure, and his adventurous spirit craves experiences that are slightly out of reach, just mysterious enough to provoke continuous interest. This is why moments of laughter, teasing, admiration, and even a bit of coy resistance have such a profound effect. These moments bypass the logical mind and speak directly to the emotional core. They whisper, "You could win me, but you have to earn it," which awakens not only his pursuit instincts, but also his deeper desire for emotional investment. Importantly, mystery does not mean being distant, cold, or manipulative. It simply means allowing space for curiosity to grow naturally. It means not revealing every thought, fear, or dream all at once, but inviting discovery through energy, presence, and light engagement. A man falls in love with how he feels about himself when he is near you. If he feels strong, admired, energized, and challenged in the most playful ways, the emotional bond will deepen effortlessly, almost without his awareness. And the woman who masters this balance becomes unforgettable, not because she demanded attention, but because she skillfully orchestrated an emotional experience that resonated with his deepest instincts. Remember, it is not only your beauty or intelligence that captivates him, it is the emotional experience you create around him, the emotional reality you invite him to enter. When you understand this and use it with authenticity and grace, you do not chase affection. You become the one he instinctively moves toward, time and time again. Once you understand that a man's attraction is profoundly emotional rather than purely rational, the next step is to become intentional about the kind of emotional experience you invite him into. It is here where many women unintentionally fall into passive patterns, simply waiting for the connection to either click or fizzle. But in reality, you have much more influence than you think, not by controlling the ego outcome, but by shaping the emotional climate in which the bond is either nourished or suffocated. The secret lies in awakening positive emotions, those feelings of excitement, admiration, curiosity, and playful challenge that are irresistible to a man's instinctual nature. Instead of trying to impress him with your story, instead of trying to prove your value through achievements or endless conversation about your feelings, your focus should be on creating emotional experiences, micro moments that make him feel alive, powerful, and adventurous in your presence. One of the simplest and most powerful ways to do this is through the art of questions. But not just any questions, not questions about future plans, relationship expectations, or emotional depth. Instead, ask questions that awaken his sense of adventure, conquest, and personal pride. Questions that connect him to the parts of himself he feels most proud of, most energized by, most alive within. For example, you might casually ask, with a spark of curiosity, if you could go anywhere in the world right now without worrying about money or responsibilities, where would you go and why? Or perhaps, what's the most daring or exciting thing you've ever done? Notice how these questions are light-hearted yet emotionally rich. They invite him to step into a story where he is the hero, the adventurer, the bold creator of his life experiences. And as he answers, you are not only hearing his words, Jung, you are experiencing the emotions behind them, the pride, the energy, the excitement. You become associated in his subconscious mind with those positive, powerful emotions. Carl Jung, in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, explains, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." What he means is that true transformation happens not by fantasizing, but by bringing hidden parts of ourselves into the light. When you ask a man questions that awaken his hidden dreams, his bold moments, and his sense of daring, you are helping him connect with the parts of himself that make him feel most alive, and that emotional energy will naturally begin to attach itself to you. As he shares, your role is crucial. React not with judgment, not with excessive analysis, and certainly not with comparisons to your own experiences. Instead, offer emotional validation. Let your eyes light up when he talks about the mountain he climbed or the crazy road trip he took with his friends. Let a genuine smile curve your lips when he tells you about the business he started, even if it failed. Admire the courage, the spirit, the sense of adventure, and voice that admiration subtly, warmly, without making it feel like an interview or performance review. A simple, playful response like, "Wow, that's bold. I love that you just went for it," can build more emotional connection than a deep 3-hour conversation about hopes and dreams, because it speaks directly to his primal need to be admired and valued without pressure. Once you've built this positive emotional space, it's time to introduce a small playful challenge, something that lightly teases, that adds an edge of unpredictability, that stirs his instinctual drive to win you over. For instance, after he tells a story about hiking a huge mountain, you might smile and say, "Sounds impressive, but I'm not convinced you could handle a real adventure, like surviving a weekend without your phone." With a mischievous glint in your eye, this kind of playful, teasing energy keeps the interaction alive. It prevents the emotional experience from becoming too heavy, too predictable, or too self-centered. It taps into his ancient wiring that says, "This woman brings lightness into my life, but she also challenges me in a way that makes me feel stronger, sharper, and more alive." Remember, building emotional experiences is not about performance, manipulation, or scripted behaviors. It's about cultivating emotional lightness, admiration, and just enough mystery to keep curiosity and energy flowing between you. When you master this, you become the emotional equivalent of sunlight, effortless to be around, nourishing to the spirit, and always slightly dazzling. You are no longer just another woman he met. You are an emotional experience he craves without fully understanding why. This is the beginning of a bond not built on logic or obligation, but on the most powerful force of all, the natural magnetism of shared positive emotion. Once you have created an emotional atmosphere filled with lightness, admiration, and positive energy, it is essential to introduce an element that keeps the dynamic vibrant and alive. And that element is the playful challenge. Without it, even the most genuine admiration can settle into predictability. With it, you awaken a man's natural instincts of conquest, curiosity, and emotional investment, drawing him even deeper into the emotional experience you are creating around him. A playful challenge is not about provoking serious conflict, nor is it about creating drama or emotional insecurity. It is about introducing a small, almost mischievous edge to your interactions, a sense that while you appreciate him, you are not easily won over, that your admiration is genuine but not unconditional, and that there is still more of you left to discover and earn. The essence of the playful challenge lies in balancing warmth and slight resistance, admiration and teasing, openness and unpredictability. It is the emotional equivalent of a smile that invites and a glance that dares. When used correctly, it stirs a man's competitive spirit in the most positive way, encouraging him to continue investing energy, time, and emotional effort to win a deeper place in your world. You might, for instance, after he shares a story of personal triumph or adventure, smile and say with a light tone, "That's impressive. But I bet you couldn't survive a real adventure, like cooking dinner for two without burning the kitchen down." Or if he teases you first, you might tilt your head and reply, "Careful, you're almost charming enough to get away with that," allowing a playful, lingering smile to seal the interaction. Carl Jung, in The Relations Between the Ego and the Unconscious, points out, "The meeting of two personalities is like a chemical reaction. If there is a tension between them, something new is created." It is exactly this creative emotional tension, this dance between admiration and slight resistance, that keeps the energy alive and magnetic between two people. Without challenge, the interaction becomes too stable, too predictable. With too much challenge, it becomes exhausting and cold. The art lies in the subtle, playful tension that invites continual emotional investment without creating real emotional burden. The playful challenge also serves another deep psychological function. It protects your emotional energy. It signals, to a man without words, that while you are warm, open, and receptive, you also value yourself enough not to be easily impressed or emotionally claimed. It says, "You are welcome to approach, but you must earn the deeper parts of me." And this subtle message ignites his deepest masculine instincts, to pursue, to prove, to protect, and to connect. However, it is crucial to keep the tone light. A playful challenge should never cross into mockery, harsh criticism, or emotional withholding. It is not about creating insecurity or testing him. It is about inviting him into a game where both of you win, a dynamic where connection, admiration, and joyful energy flow naturally and continuously. When you notice that he rises to the challenge, perhaps by teasing back, sharing another daring story, or suggesting a playful bet or competition, your response should be one of delight, not dismissal. Celebrate his effort with laughter, with light-hearted admiration, reinforcing the positive cycle of emotional investment and reward. Over time, this pattern creates a dynamic where he wants to keep engaging, not because he feels obligated, but because every interaction with you becomes emotionally stimulating, satisfying, and slightly unpredictable. You become not just someone he enjoys spending time with, but someone who awakens parts of himself he rarely experiences with others: his courage, his playfulness, his ambition, his desire to win and protect. It is this emotional alchemy, admiration mixed with mystery, appreciation mixed with challenge, that forms the emotional foundation for not only immediate attraction, but also lasting connection. Because deep down, every man is searching for a woman who sees his strength, teases his spirit, and invites his best self to emerge without demand or control. By mastering the art of the playful challenge, you step into your most magnetic, powerful, feminine energy, the energy that draws men toward you naturally without effort, and keeps them emotionally invested long after the first conversation. You do not need to push, to chase, or to explain your worth. You simply become the emotional experience that he seeks instinctively, a source of lightness, admiration, excitement, and the delicious sense of conquest that ignites his spirit. And once a man feels that way around you, he will not only pursue you, he will cherish the emotional world you create together, and he will want to protect, nurture, and deepen the bond you have sparked. When you understand the deeper psychological forces at play, it becomes clear why this approach, built on emotional lightness, admiration, subtle challenge, and mystery, resonates so powerfully with a man's instincts. It is not merely a technique to catch his attention, it is a profound emotional experience that fulfills his most fundamental psychological needs in ways that words alone could never achieve, reaching into the deepest layers of his unconscious desires. At the heart of masculine psychology lies the yearning for significance, for admiration that feels earned, and for connection that does not compromise his sense of inner freedom. A man is naturally drawn to relationships where he feels stronger, braver, more alive, not relationships where he feels burdened, evaluated, or emotionally obligated before genuine desire has had the chance to root itself deeply. When he is placed in a position where his emotional energy flows naturally, rather than being forced or extracted, connection grows effortlessly, almost invisibly. By offering admiration without pressure, curiosity without interrogation, and playful challenge without hostility, you create an emotional environment where a man feels free to unfold himself authentically. He does not feel cornered into proving his worth in mechanical or exhausting ways, nor does he feel that he must suppress his more vulnerable or spontaneous instincts to meet heavy expectations. Instead, he feels that his best qualities are invited, witnessed and even sharpened through the dynamic you share, as if you are holding up a mirror that reflects his highest self back to him. Carl Jung, in The Undiscovered Self, wrote, "The meeting of the self with the world creates a constant tension. It is in this tension that consciousness is born." It is exactly this creative tension, the dance between admiration and mystery, between warmth and slight challenge, that fuels emotional consciousness within a relationship. Rather than being lulled into emotional stagnation or predictability, he remains awake, curious, engaged, and continuously invested. Another reason this approach works is because it bypasses the surface logic of conversation and speaks directly to the emotional body. You are not attempting to convince him that you are valuable, not trying to impress him into desire. Instead, you are eliciting these emotions by making him feel powerful, admired, challenged, and energized simply by being in your presence. It is the difference between demanding love and awakening it organically, between requesting admiration and evoking it through emotional resonance. In a world where many social interactions feel hollow, transactional, rushed, or laced with invisible agendas, your ability to offer emotional lightness, playful connection, and authentic admiration becomes a rare and precious experience. It signals not only emotional maturity, but also profound self-worth, the kind of magnetic self-possession that does not need to seek approval because it radiates it from within. Moreover, this emotional experience plants the seeds for a bond that extends far beyond superficial attraction. Men do not fall deeply in love with a woman's resume, her talents, or even her physical beauty alone. They fall in love with the way a woman makes them feel about themselves, the way her presence amplifies their sense of strength, possibility, and emotional aliveness. They crave the vitality she stirs within them, the feeling of becoming a more courageous and expansive version of themselves through her emotional reflection. By mastering this emotional alchemy, you create a relationship dynamic where a man feels continuously motivated to grow, to conquer new emotional territories, and to deepen his connection with you. Not through external pressure, but through authentic internal inspiration. You become not just a partner he enjoys, but a muse who sparks his greatest emotional expansions, a woman he sees not as a possession, but as an indispensable catalyst to his own becoming. In doing so, you anchor yourself in his heart, not as a temporary fascination, but as a profound and irreplaceable emotional force that continues to echo in his memory, his identity, and his dreams. This is why emotional mastery, not over others, but over the environment you create through your energy, presence, and emotional intelligence, is the true secret to both attracting and sustaining the kind of powerful, soulful relationship most only dare to imagine. If there is one final key to sustaining the emotional magnetism you create, it is the commitment to preserve an aura of mystery. Not the kind of mystery that feels cold, evasive, or manipulative, but the kind that leaves space for curiosity, for discovery, for the sweet tension of wondering what more there is to explore. In the early stages of connection, many women feel the impulse to lay everything on the table at once, to share their fears, their histories, their traumas, their every hope and dream, as if intimacy were a prize awarded for maximum transparency. Yet true emotional intimacy grows not from immediate full disclosure, but from gradual revelation, from a rhythm where each new discovery feels earned and precious. When you reveal yourself too quickly, you eliminate the mystery that fuels emotional engagement. When you hold parts of yourself back lightly, joyfully, without fear or manipulation, you give a man the gift of a continuous emotional journey, a sense that there is always more of you to uncover, always new layers of depth, wonder, and richness awaiting him. Carl Jung, in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, offers a powerful reminder. The most intense conflicts, if overcome, leave behind a sense of security and calm that is not easily disturbed. By allowing the emotional tension of mystery, the tension between what is revealed and what is yet unknown, you create a relationship that is not easily disturbed by boredom, complacency, or emotional fatigue. Maintaining an aura of mystery does not mean being secretive or deceptive. It simply means being selective, intentional, and playful about how much you reveal and when. It means allowing your energy, your stories, your emotional world to unfold naturally, without urgency, without pressure, without the need to rush into full emotional expression.